Hey guys, how do we keep it dirty off-road? And today we're continuing the rehab of our new Gen 1 Raptor. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel as we continue the rehab on our 2014 Roush Raptor. For those guys that are new to the series, we've done quite a bit so far. Showed you guys how we got this truck from Ohio and drove it across the country. We showed you guys everything that was wrong with it.
Rust, more rust.
We actually started fixing some of those areas, started doing all the oil changes. We did some of the exterior mods. In the last video, we started doing some of the interior mods that we wanted to do to this truck. In this video, we're going to start tackling the rust. This right here is a rust belt truck, so she had a little bit of surface rust. It wasn't bad though. By California standards, it was pretty nasty. By rust belt standards, she was practically clean. I mean, she was almost perfect by rust belt standards. Good thing was is that for the most part, it was only surface rust. A couple little areas that did need a little bit of extra attention, but for the most part, it wasn't too bad. But we wanted to make sure that we treated everything and took care of all that surface rust before it actually had a chance to root itself and turn into something bad. First area we're going to start off with is the skid plates. We wanted to get them removed first so we can really inspect the area underneath and really see what was under there. And both of our skid plates and the hardware holding it was pretty messed up and pretty corroded, so they had to get fixed up.
So we took off the skid plate for the diff covers. You guys can see it's got quite a bit of rust on it. So we're going to get that treated up, get as much of that off. We had the bolts already in there. And I took off the clip nuts too because the clip nuts are pretty nasty. So we're going to get these treated as well. Now as far as what we're using, this strip right here, it's got really good reviews, so hopefully it'll work. And then we're going to give everything a fresh coat of paint. So we're going to get it all cleaned up and give it a fresh coat of paint so that it's all good. Right, honey?
Yep. I'm not helping though. I'm not helping.
The engine skid plates were by far the worst. Yeah, they were pretty rusted out. Now, we're going to go ahead and replace that engine skid plate with a really cool solution by these guys, Off-Road Republic. They have a really cool option for the Gen 1 Raptors, and we're going to go ahead and replace that. And we're going to add a transmission skid because it's a critical area that protection that this truck needs. Make sure you guys stay tuned. In a future video, we're going to show you guys the skid plates and a cool color that we picked. Now that we got all the skid plates out, we can finally start attacking some of the rust here on the frame. And like I said before, guys, mainly it was just surface rust. It wasn't too bad up here, but it was very visible. So we wanted to take care of it before it turned into something, you know, before it started getting any deeper in there and actually became an actual problem. If you guys plan on doing this, you're going to need a wire wheel, you're going to need a metal brush, and you're going to need a hammer. The hammer is so you can actually tap on some of these. Some of these, as you start taking them off, you're going to realize that they're a little bit deeper. If you tap on it, it'll start chipping away. That's a good sign to tell you that if it's a little bit deeper and it's going to need some more treatment. We got really lucky and there wasn't any major deep rust. There were a couple sections we had to tap and it came off, but that was it. We were able to grind it away and paint it up. Now, as far as painting, we just use automotive paint. And if you're going to do this, you can get away with automotive paint or you can use something like Steal It. You don't really need to get all crazy under here with paint or cement or anything like that, especially if you live in the southern states like we do in Southern California. Out here, the desert's really going to take care of this. It's going to sandblast it away anyway, so we went with a product that was cheap enough for us to reapply. We ended up doing about 3 coats of paint, and we're just going to keep an eye on it. So if you do this, don't get too carried away. Just go ahead and remove the rust, treat the rust, paint over it, and then keep regular checks on it. Get under here every once in a while, and if you start seeing rust develop again, get your wire wheel, attack the area, and add a little bit more paint, and keep an eye on it. While we're under here, we wanted to give you guys a couple of tips for you guys that are looking to buy these trucks. You want to make sure that there's not that much rust. See how there's a little bit of rust in here? You want to make sure that there's not that much rust in here. This right here is about as much as you want to see. Anything more than that, and it could be a real problem. Next, you want to look for the cab seals. See these things right here? These are little pieces of film all throughout the cab that are used to seal the cab. See, there's here, there's there. They're all over the place. There's even some right here. If any of those seals are compromised, run. Yes, if you're looking to buy a truck and any of those seals are missing and there's a hole straight into your cab, do not get that truck because the water basically traps in there and then it just rots away this section and you're gonna have to replace that whole section. So if you have one of these trucks, look for those. And I think too, if you already have a Raptor and these seals start failing, they do make grommets. They do make like plastic grommets that fit in those seals and can help you close them up to reduce any further damage in the future. Make sure you guys check the cab corner. These right here, these areas right here is where the majority of the rust happens. So down here in the back and then over here up front, make sure you chop your way through that and make sure everything sounds solid. If it doesn't sound solid, there's something wrong and there's most likely a lot of rust in there. And you'll see it right off the bat, guys. If there's a problem, you'll see the rust. You'll see how bad it is. It is a very well-known problem. Tends to let water get trapped down there and rust develops and destroys your cab. Next, we wanted to start taking care of the rust on those skid plates. We wanted to actually strip as much of it as possible. We were mainly going to save the transfer case skid, so that's the one we focused on, but it was in really poor shape. I mean, the amount of rust, the amount of grime and everything that was on there was pretty bad, and well, we had a real hard time stripping it.
All right, so I've officially given up on this. It's quite a bit. Try to get all the rust off of this. I mean, let me show you guys. The other side, that was a few hours. Usually 2 to 3 hours, and I got it good, right? I mean, it's not perfect, but we got it close. But this side, after like an hour and a half of grinding on this thing, I still haven't got most of the rust off. It's still black. It's still a long ways to go. And I still have that to do. So I have two options. I can either soak them, build a little thing and soak them, or I can send them out to powder coat and have them strip them and do everything. And I think that's what we're going to do. I'm going to send it out to powder coat and just give up on this. Unfortunately, it's going to take longer than I like, but I'm exhausted. I got like 5-6 hours into these things and it's taking forever.
We had to take those skid plates out to a local powder coater for them to sandblast it and strip everything away and repaint them. We even did our engine skid plate too. Even though we're not going to reuse it, we are going to put it up for sale here in a couple weeks. So we wanted to make sure that that was painted and stripped and everything so we can protect that as much as possible in case any one of you guys wanted it. Now, as far as the color, we picked a very unique color. We're not going to spoil it here, but it's a cool color. If you follow us on social media, you've already seen this color. We love it. No, Ethan loves it. We'll do a review later when we do the install video for those skid plates. We're really proud of how those came out. Next up, we need to treat our intercooler hardware. Almost every single bolt that held the intercooler brackets in place was completely rusted out.
So sit rep, 2 of them have snapped. Yeah, I can't get that one off. So I tried to go for the bracket below it, and that snapped. So now we're gonna go for those brackets. It's like, what the fuck, man?
Lights were in the way too. That light bar underneath the truck was in the way, so we had to get that bad boy out. And those bolts were rusted and spinning. Needless to say, there was a lot of cutting.
This sucks. Ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh! What are you doing, you dumbass?
Ah, it hurt.
Yeah, of course, it's hot.
Oh, it hurt.
Whoever did those is a fucking asshole. Now, once we had everything out, it was time to go ahead and soak everything and let it sit overnight. But in some areas, the rust was so thick that not even the soaking was enough. And we actually had to spend a lot of time grinding away at rust to get those brackets rehabbed. We also lost half of our backing plates because half of our backing plates were either too rusted through or they had bolts stuck in them, and it was just taking forever to try to drill them out. Everything was completely seized. So we ended up scrapping those, repainting the hardware, reusing as much as we could, adding new hardware where we could, and put it back onto the truck.
So we're finally ready to put this back together. After days, and I mean days of struggling with this. I mean, you guys can see the hardware. We had to do a lot of cutting. There was a lot of rusting on this thing. I mean, look at that. Rust was really bad. I mean, it took a long time to get all this stuff off. But we finally got it off. We got a bunch of replacement hardware because a lot of the hardware that came with ruined. So we got a bunch of replacement bolts. This is our cartridge from this. And a lot of the problem stems from the bolts that they were using stock. A lot of these bolts were just regular steel bolts. They weren't protected. They didn't have any kind of special coating. So they just all rusted out. It's something we had to take care of, guys, because we are going to be upgrading our transmission cooler. We are going to be doing some things up here. So we needed a way to take things on and off easily. And the fact that everything was seized means it's time well spent, because otherwise one of these other projects could have turned into a major nightmare. Now, everything's not perfect. We still didn't cut that bolt off. We are replacing this bolt. We don't have a way to secure it on that side. We did try rib nuts. The metal's too thick, so we can't really do a rib nut there. Well, at least not the conventional ones. So the truck's going to SVC next week, so we're going to ask them to see what kind of options they can do. This metal's pretty thick, so I don't necessarily want to be sitting there in this tight space tapping a new hole, so I'm going to ask them for a couple options on fixing that. Right now, we're just going to get it running so that we can take her to Trucks and Tacos, and then she's going to SVC next week to have the suspension redone. But let's get this back together.
Getting it installed back on was overall much easier than taking it off. And after a few days too, we were able to find a solution for that bolt on the bumper that we couldn't get connected with rib nuts. So we found a pretty good solution using jack nuts.
So after trying just about everything, we finally got this to hold. We tried lag screws. Yeah, I know it's not the right solution. We tried rib nuts, tried everything, and finally these things work. Jack nuts. It's these little things right here. Basically, next to the bolt, make it super easy. These things actually worked.
Alright guys, so that's it for this video, but we're not done with the rust. This was just the start of us trying to treat the rust on the truck. In the next episode, SVC is actually going to help us treating all the rust around the suspension. They're actually going to take everything off and treat the rust for us. And we're going to start treating all the corrosion on our shocks, because that's really, they were in pretty bad shape, which ended up turning into a pretty big nightmare. Next video is going to be a long one, guys, as we address everything that's going on in the suspension, and that's when we really started running into some major problems due to lack of maintenance from the previous owner. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. A lot of updates going on. The next episode is going to be packed with a ton of information on suspension, shock maintenance, shock rebuilds, lots and lots of info, guys. And that's it. Make sure you guys put any questions or comments below, and as always, thank you guys for watching.